Hey guys, it's Kayla from Killing It with Coupons, and I am here for another Chat With Me Sunday, and this week is about how I do my freezer dinners. And I told you guys I'd do a video on this only because I do my freezer dinners just a little bit different than a lot of the ones I know that are on Pinterest and stuff like that. Most of the time when you see like a big freezer dinner, they'll do like a master list, right? It'll make like 20 dinners or something like that, and it's $100 or $200 or whatever, for a month, 2 months of food or something like that for dinners. Now, when I started doing this, that was how I was doing it, and I found that it was beneficial, but then there was also some things I didn't totally like about it. And the way that I do it now is actually, again, really helpful, beneficial to me, and I find that it works probably the best, like I said, for me personally and for our schedules and things like that. When I started doing freezer dinners about 2 years ago, it wasn't this past summer, it was the summer before that. I had started doing them at the end of football season. We would have football practice on, I think it was Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays or something like that. And then on top of that too, my brother's football games were on Friday. He was playing in high school, and then my other brother would have a football game on Saturday or Sunday. And so our schedule is all just crazy, and I kind of needed to figure out a way where I didn't have to be tied down to making sure that I got, a dinner in the crock pot or in the oven or whatever it was, because sometimes I just didn't have enough time, especially on nights when we had football practice. We normally end up having to go to football practice at like 5, 4, I think sometimes it was like 4:30. It changed because their time changes right in there too, and so it'd get darker earlier, so we'd have to sometimes then go practice earlier. So the whole schedule and stuff like that was just really off. Last year, last football season, towards the end of it, so it was kind of like mid-fall or something like that, was when I had started doing my freezer dinners. And so what I did was one of those, you buy all the ingredients at one time, $100, $200 or whatever, and you make 20 something freezer dinners or whatever it was. Now at the time, and I still do this as well, I only cook 4 days out of the week. I only cook Monday through Thursday. Friday is either sometimes a pizza night or sometimes leftover night or sometimes takeout night or whatever. And then normally on Sunday and or Saturday my mom will cook, or sometimes I might throw, an extra freezer dinner in the crock pot or something like that. But for the most part, my normal cooking is only 4 days out of the week. So that 20 or so freezer dinners that I would make at that time, pretty much lasted us mostly through the end of football season, I think. And it was so helpful because at the time I wasn't really cooking so much because I couldn't find a good time schedule and things like that to really make dinner and stuff like that, because again, our football timing was so weird when we'd had to go and we'd miss dinner, or we'd have to eat when we got back or something like that. So the whole timing was just really off. But making the freezer dinners was very helpful because I was able to do everything all at one time, and then we had the dinners for the whole month. So then this past football season rolls around, and what I started doing, and I still do it now because I found that it was so helpful at the time, and I'm still able to buy regular groceries, and I'm still able to buy my regular produce and my meat and stuff like that for the whole week, instead of doing like a massive once a month grocery haul or a massive every other week grocery haul, or every 3 weeks or whatever. For me, it's really helpful to still be able to go to the stores because I still, I want fresh produce every single week, and I need, we'll always need something, whether it's, like at the time, toilet paper, paper towels, or something like that. There's always something we need, and buying everything all at one time was not feasible for us either because it costs a lot of money once out of the week. Doing all the freezer dinners, and just dinner wise could be helpful too, but I just, again, for me personally, it wasn't working so well the one time that I did it. And so then this year was what I decided to do, was take all of my favorite freezer dinners, and I still add to this list constantly. And basically what I did was I made a PowerPoint of everything and all of the freezer dinners that I have. It's really helpful for me to be able to go through that and see what's on sale, and then be able to compare it and pick out the freezer dinner that I want to make with what's on sale for that week. For me, this just works, again, really well, and this is just personal preference and how I like to do it. But I would rather buy my ingredients and still do my grocery shopping the same that I do if I was making, fresh dinner or whatever. If I was just taking the chicken breast from the fridge and then making it in the oven, or making it in the crock pot, or however I'm going to do it. Or even if I was taking, frozen chicken breast out of the freezer and then just throwing it in the crock pot with all the other ingredients. Several reasons why I disliked doing the big, once a month or whatever freezer dinners, I guess, is because, for one, there wasn't always a lot of variety in there. A lot of times the ones that they'll list, you know, and like I said, you guys can find tons and tons of these on Pinterest, and they'll, you know, give you a grocery list of all the ingredients that you're going to need to make the 20 freezer dinners, and then, you know, for a lot of the time it was, you know, 3 of the same or something like that, which isn't so bad because that means you're having it like, you know, once a week or every couple days or something like that. So it's not that bad, but for me, again, there wasn't a lot of variety. I felt like I was making, you know, 3, 4, you know, the same freezer dinner sometimes, and again, there wasn't a lot of variety, and it would just be like frozen chicken breast and maybe frozen ground beef or something like that, or, you know, if you did want to use fresh ground beef or something. But again, there wasn't a lot of variety in the different types of things that the list would include, and it would just be a lot of the same thing. You make several of those for the same, you know, week or for the same month or something, which again isn't bad, especially if you really like it. Now, if you've never used the recipe before and you make this one and you find out, oh my goodness, nobody in the house likes it, and I made the, you know, 3 of these, well, now you have a little bit of a problem. I mean, if you're not too much of a picky eater, it's not that big of a deal, but you know, if it's something that just, it turned out like mush and you made 3 bags of it, you know, that's probably not the greatest. So that's what I also kind of found. The other thing was that it was a lot of money out of pocket all at one time. Like I said, $100 or $200 or something like that to make all these freezer dinners, which again, it would last us for a long period of time, but I would still need to go to the grocery store because we still needed produce and we still need all those other things. So although I was saving a little bit buying and doing all of this at one time, for me, again, it was a lot of money up front, and it wasn't as feasible. And that was the other thing too, was that took a lot of time. The grocery shopping took a lot of time because instead of just doing, you know, a couple things, I had to find several things. I had to find a lot more than what I normally would put on my grocery list. So grocery shopping would take a lot longer, and again, like I said, me personally, I was still going to the grocery store every single week, so it wouldn't matter that, oh, I just get it all done and out of the way. It saved me a little bit of time on my grocery shopping trips, but not as much as if I was still going every single week anyway. So to make it all at one time, if I'm making 20 freezer dinners, that's going to take me several hours. Yes, you can always enlist help and other people to help you with it, but again, for me, it would take too much time to do all of that. The chopping of the vegetables, the, you know, preparing the bags, writing on the bags, finding the recipes, doing all that kind of stuff. Again, it would just take me a lot of time. Now, the reason that I did like doing the freezer dinners that way was because, again, that time of the year for me was really crazy busy, and it was nice to be able to know, hey, I don't have to worry about dinners if I, you know, even if I don't get to the grocery store that weekend or something like that, that whole month's freezer dinners were taken care of and the dinners were, you know, done, and I don't have to think about it so much. And again too, if it was something like that, like you knew that for some reason, you know, for a whole month or a couple weeks or whatever, you're not going to be able to go to the grocery stores, or you're not going to be able to make or prepare the dinners and things like that, it would be really helpful. And again, for me in that time of the year, it really was. But then over this past summer, which I've been doing for about 6 or 7 months or something like that now, I found that this way, doing freezer dinners, has been really helpful for me, and I'll share it with you guys with a couple examples of how I do it. So first off, what I did was I told you guys this took me a little bit of a longer time to make, but I've just been adding to it as I go and stuff like that, only because it's really helpful for me. Instead of having to go on Pinterest and go to a different website for every different thing that I have to find, I actually made it so that everything is just right in here. If I'm making something like, for example, this week, I'll share with you guys. So at Caputo's, these boneless chicken thighs are on sale for $1.29. So this is how I'll do it. I will just basically go through the ads, see if there's any good deals on meat. Okay, this is a good deal on meat, so I'll go ahead and pick this up. So what I'll then do is go, okay, my chicken, I will go to crock-pot chicken, since that's normally what I do. I don't do so much oven stuff. My method of choice is crock-pot, especially in the summer, because it does get warm in the house and putting stuff in the oven is not always ideal. So again, when I was doing this over the summer, that's why I still kind of do crock-pot more than not, because we have 3 crock-pots. So this is the one that I'm actually going to be doing for this week. It's ginger peach chicken. Now what I did is I added all the ingredients so I know what I'm going to need, and I just pulled it off of the website, and then I have a link to the website there. From right here, from literally all I have to do is, again, just pull open my PowerPoint, or this is Keynote on Mac, and I just open it up and I can write on here when I make my bag, 4 to 5 hours on high, serve with cooked white or brown rice and steamed vegetables, and I can add that if I want to or not, and then I know what I need. So I'm going to need about 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, also a bag of frozen peaches, red onion, brown sugar, I'll probably use soy sauce, grated ginger, and ground coriander. So now when I go to make my freezer dinners, if I'm making multiple, I don't have to try and pull up all the different recipes from all the different sites and stuff like that. Like I said, I just have it in here. And also too, when I go into my ad and go, okay, what's on sale this week? Oh, boneless chicken thighs look like they're a good deal. Or let's say for ground beef, for example, it's $2.49 a pound. That's not a bad deal. So maybe I want to make something with that this week. I can go right into my ground beef that I have in the crock pot, because again, that's my preferred method, and I will go to ground beef. So I've got a whole little separate tab just for ground beef, and let's say it's chunky beef chili or whatever. I have, again, all the ingredients there that I'm going to need, and then I just add these to my grocery list as I see fit. And also too, when I make these freezer dinners, I normally end up doubling the recipe. So if it calls for 1 can of pinto beans, I will do 2, and I will make 2 bags of it now, because a lot of times what will be on sale, and I'm sure it says on here, family pack. Normally that means it's a pretty larger size. So this will be, you know, if it calls for, like here, it calls for 2 pounds, this might end up being, you know, a 4 pound or 5 pound thing. So I can split that. So it's normally a larger size and a better price for the family pack, and I'm making 2 freezer dinners. So I can buy my meat now and stock up on it. Again, another example of how this is really helpful for me is that if there is several deals, really good deals on meat or something like that, like I said, you know, the family packs and stuff like that, which are normally what is on sale, I can buy, you know, 1 or 2 packages of it and not, you know, it won't go to waste because it is the larger size, instead of a recipe that might call for only a pound of, you know, chicken breast or something like that. But if it's a family pack, it might end up being, you know, 2-3 pounds or something like that, or more of chicken breast. Even sometimes too at Caputo's, the last a couple times now, and I've done it twice, they've had fresh chicken breast, 99 cents a pound for a 10-pound bag. So that's $10. Which is a good price, you know, 99 cents for chicken breast. But, you know, what am I going to use 10 pounds of chicken breast for? Like, that's crazy. So the best way that I have, again, found to use that is to do these freezer dinners. That way I can buy my meat, I can stock up on it, and I already have it ready. In addition to whatever produce might be on sale for that week, it's, you know, a feasible option to making and buying a bigger in bulk and stuff like that, which is normally a lot of times cheaper. Now, another example is, let's say that there is a couple good deals on meat for that week. Several times to Valley Produce and Caputo's, which is mainly where I end up buying my meat from. And I just say meat as an example because a lot of times I will do a freezer dinner meat-based. I do several vegetarian dinners as well, but for the most part, like I said, it's some type of meat-based something. So if, you know, there is pork roast and ground beef on sale and chicken breast or whatever, there's several things on sale, but I don't have enough, you know, days in the week to make all those dinners. So for me, again, buying all that stuff in 1 week and then making it and making, let's say, 8 freezer dinners when I only need 4 for that week anyway, will be very, you know, helpful as well, because then next week, if there maybe aren't as many good deals on meat, I don't need to then make as many freezer dinners for that next week because I do have extras. The other thing too that I do want to kind of put as a disclaimer is, now like I said, I will buy 2, you know, enough to do 2 freezer dinners with that specific recipe, and we don't end up eating normally what I make on that Sunday, let's say, or Saturday whenever I go to the grocery store. And the freezer dinners that I make for that week are not what we end up eating during that week. Normally it takes a day or 2 days sometimes for it to completely freeze, and so I will leave it out in the freezer for that whole week, and then possibly the next week I might end up using the ones from the prior week. But whatever I have out in the freezer is what I will already use. And again, for the first couple or so weeks, it was kind of weird because we were kind of eating like the same thing almost. After about a month or so, we started having a huge variety out in the freezer. And it was things that were totally different. So instead of like saying, oh, you know, this week only chicken breast is on sale, we have to eat only chicken breast for every single meal this week. Like, no, we don't have to, because I have ground beef stuff out in the freezer. I have pork out in the freezer. I've got vegetarian dishes out in the freezer. So I have a variety of pretty much everything out in the freezer that I can make instead of having to do, oh, chicken breast is on sale this week, we can only eat chicken breast. This way, again, I have a huge variety and can feed people whatever I want to. Like last week I ended up making 6 freezer dinners, and this week I am making only 2 freezer dinners. So in the end it kind of evens itself out where I'm still making the same anyway. And I'm also not, at least I feel like not spending that much money either, a ton out of pocket or, you know, anything like that. I'm still within my grocery budget every single week and not splurging a whole ton. And, you know, again, if we end up making less freezer dinners this week, like I said, we're only going to make 2, you know, next week then maybe there's a really good sale and I do 6 or I do 8 or something like that. And this way the extra money then will roll over into the next week or something like that. So again, those are the reasons why I really like doing freezer dinners this way. And again, like I said, you don't have to do like the full-on PowerPoint like I did and stuff like that. For me, it was just really helpful to organize all of my recipes, and you know, it'd be the same as having a recipe book or something like that. I just found that it was easiest for me to do it all in PowerPoint and then organize those again by, you know, the different types of meat that I need, you know, or if it's a vegetarian dish, and then also break it up by if it's a crock pot or if it's an oven, and then, you know, the specific type of meat too, if it's ground beef or if it's a beef, you know, roast or something like that, that they're all kind of different and separated. So again, guys, this is just how it works best for me, but I did want to do a video letting you guys know, kind of, because I know I've said like, oh, I'm gonna make these many freezer dinners, and you know, it seems like, oh, you're making the same thing and you know, you're only doing 2 this week. Like, you know, I guess if somebody doesn't necessarily know how I do them personally, it might be a little bit confusing, and you know, that we're not eating the dinners that I make for that week on that specific, during that specific week. Especially too, if you notice, I'm only making 2 this week and I made 6 last week or whatever. Like, how does that work out? So again, I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention too, if it does help you guys as well in making a freezer dinner or something like that, you know, making 2 every week or something. Or, you know, you could even add that in with your normal groceries. Whatever you don't end up using for that week, you could make into a freezer dinner or something like that. That could also be really helpful. But you know, let me know if you guys do freezer dinners. How do you do them? Do you guys do a massive once a week, every other week, once a week like I kind of do? You know, how do you do them? And let me know below. Like I said, I've been able to eventually stockpile, and now, you know, at the beginning and when sales are good on meat or whatever that I need to buy, you know, I can make again 6 or 8 a week and then stockpile those ones that I've made, and then we'll have a large variety, and we will have, you know, plenty out in our freezer where it's almost like we did a big once a month kind of freezer dinner haul or whatever. 2 other things too that I did want to mention is that I do have one big chest freezer that's out in our garage. I know I sometimes say, oh, I go put my freezer dinners out in the garage, because we have a very large chest freezer out there and it's able to hold a lot. So I know for some people that don't have a big chest freezer or something like that, it wouldn't be totally also feasible to do a bunch of freezer dinners, but for us, I keep most of those out there and it doesn't pile up in our inside freezer. In our house, I'm able to keep them all in the garage. So what I will do is, which also saves me a lot of time in the morning, is I go out to the freezer, I grab a crock pot dinner or a freezer dinner, pull it out, and then throw it in the crock pot, and it's super easy, and I don't have to waste any time, especially in a day when I know that I have a lot of stuff going on. If I'm really busy during the day, it's so easy to, again, just take that, you know, hour or so. Sometimes it only takes me an hour to make all of them. Depending on how many I'm making, it might take me an hour or 2 to make them all on a weekend, and then I can, you know, just easily in the morning just throw it in the crock pot or take it out and throw it in the oven, and it saves me so much time. So those are 2 additional little things that are very helpful. But that does it for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I will see you guys all next week. So bye guys.